And welcome everybody to this very special live edition of the Union Federation podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network and someplace else too. But we're going to get to that in just a moment. Of course, this is a huge episode of the Union Federation podcast, as we've got the season finale of Picard to discuss, as well as the series premiere of Strange New Worlds, maybe the most anticipated show on Paramount era of Star Trek, which means I need a full crew to cover all this. And it starts, of course, with our ship's counselor. She's our holographic captain. She may be smuggling in certain materials during the podcast. Romulan Ale is usually her specialty. Of course, is the wonderful Miss Amy Nelson.
Well, hello. Yeah, you did see me smuggle that Romulan L in.
It's a huge show, Amy, and we got a few extras in this that we're going to get to in just a moment. But I got to bring in our top-notch security officer, even though he tends to turn the other way when you bring in stuff. I got to have a talk with him about that. His next review, Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
I confiscated this in the security transport. It is now mine. How's it going, guys?
It's going well. That's a sharp look for you. I gotta say.
For the audio listeners out there, I'm wearing my cool new Star Trek hat. So there we go.
It's kind of shiny. So a wonderful thing. So, but now, Amy, you have brought along a new crew member with you today. So would you care to have the honor of doing the introduction?
Yes, I am bringing an amazing host of Infinite Diversity on BQN. She talks New Trek all the time, and so I wanted her to talk New Trek with us, and that is Chrissy DeClercq-Zalagi. Hello, Chrissy.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for doing double duty, because I know that you and Thad will be talking all the New Trek that happened on Thursday.
Yep, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I can never get enough of that, so it's all good.
Yeah. And listeners, Chrissy and I actually got to meet in real life at Chicago at the convention. So
Amy is just on a roll of meeting all of her fellow podcasters in real life. Amy and I got to meet this past February right before she went on the Star Trek cruise. You actually were at Mr. Reitzel's wedding. So
yeah,
yes, I have met everyone here. I love it. It's my Trek family.
Yeah.
Now, Chrissy, I can't tell you that we're a top-notch ship like the Cerritos, but we strive hard around here. Now, before we get into all of these wonderful Star Trek things that are happening, we got a little piece of news here, but it's not Star Trek news. It's Fandom Podcast Network news and BQN Network news. Of course, you know Kevin and I are the founders of the Fandom Podcast Network. Amy Nelson is the queen of BQN. And Amy has been with us here on Union Federation for a very long time. And when we found out she was taking over and assimilating BQN, she decided she wanted to reach out those tentacles and assimilate a little bit of the Fandom Podcast Network as well. So we have a very special announcement that the Fandom Podcast Network and the BQN Network are teaming up in a partnership. And Amy, I'm very excited about this. Why don't you tell the listeners what that's going to mean for BQN?
All right. Well, very exciting. Since I have been hosting and co-hosting on Discoville previously, and now Union Federation, I wanted my listeners to get out there. And so we are going to we're calling a cousin partnership, and we will be dropping Union Federation over on BQN. And then you guys will get to share Galaxy Class and all good things.
It's very exciting, Kevin. This is something we strive for with the founding of the Fandom Podcast Network.
Yeah, more Trek on our network, more on theirs, and sharing it is great. It's a great partnership, and I'm really excited to have you guys join us with that. And I think it's going to be an awesome partnership. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it's going to bring a lot to us. Hopefully, we'll start seeing some of these. We're going to assimilate some BQN talent over here too on some of our other projects, and they might steal us too. I don't know. Amy's in charge. I'm just saying that.
Now listen, no, we just say that because you guys know me. It really was this group event, wasn't it, Chrissy? Like,
Oh, yes.
we have an executive producer panel. It's not one person. There's no one person. I mean, we joke that we are the queens, right, Chrissy?
Yes.
But it really has been this amazing group work of Tony Robinson, Mark White, Chrissy, Thad, everyone, Casey, Chris Trabuzio, and having all the podcasts, Mickey's Marvels, obviously your history with the Zilogis and Infinite Diversity, and then my podcast, All Good Things and Galaxy Class, like coming together and sticking together and building what I think we really are assimilating the best of where we've been and from our experiences. So we are really excited to start BQN and start a new partnership with the FPN.
Yes. And, you know, for us too, Amy, we've always been so happy to have you here as part of the Union Federation. And you've even branched out, done a few couch potato theaters here and there. So just absolutely excited about this opportunity because, you know, we're going to have these guys joining these guys, which means this will be on BQN. This will be on the Fandom Podcast Network, and this will be on the Fandom Podcast Network. We're just going to take over. But
for the listeners, you might want to read those out loud.
That's true. Sorry, well, I'm in a video mode, of course, and we talked about it earlier. Union Federation will be on the BQN. Galaxy Class will have episodes coming on to the Fandom Podcast Network, as will All Good Things. Kevin, they're classing up to join on us. What are we going to do?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, this is really cool. I'm excited.
So with that, though, guys, we need to get started into what we're here to talk about on this episode of the Union Federation. But before we do any of that, that sound, of course, is spoiler warnings. We are going to dive deep into all the happenings of not only Picard, but the season premiere of Strange New Worlds as well. So you have been warned. If you haven't watched it, go watch them. Come back, watch this on YouTube. Listen to the audio podcast on whatever feed you want to listen to. Fandom Podcast Network, BQN. It's everywhere. We're going to take over. We've joked for years that Amy was planning to take over the podcast airways, and she's really doing it now. So, but with that, guys, let's activate that quantum drive. Okay, it is now time to talk Star Trek Picard because we are here with the season finale. Season 2, it's had its high points, it's had its low points. We've been a little all over the map on it, but we got the season finale, and you were all cutting onions during the season finale, weren't you? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, maybe just a little bit there. This episode aired this past Thursday. It's time to put an addition for the final time for season 2 of Picard into the Admiral's log. Despite Picard's protests, T'Lyn interrupts the Queen's message as her needing to sacrifice herself to save Renee. She uses a holographic disguise to thwart Sung's murder attempts on Renee and dies in Picard's arms while Renee departs on the Europa mission. After his failure, Sung returns home to find that Corey has deleted his digital files, though he still has a physical file labeled Project Con. Corey is...
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a reflex for Kevin. I apologize. Corey is recruited to join the Travelers by none other than one Wesley Crusher. And Rios decides to stay in the past with Teresa. Q and Picard discuss the purpose of the trial, with Q hoping that Picard has learned to let go of the past and accept love. Q then uses the last of his power to send Picard, Seven, and Raffi back to the Stargazer in their own time where Elnor is alive. Picard recognizes that this Borg Queen is Agnes, whose collective has detected a new transwarp conduit that they offer to monitor as provisional members of the Federation. After reuniting with the older Guinan and learning about Rios' life in the 21st century, Picard returns to his chateau and asks Solaris for a second chance at being together. So, guys, the emotional heartstrings everywhere for Picard. It was amazing. I want to get first reactions. That's what we do around here. So, Chrissy, what we ask for in the first reactions is what were you feeling as soon as those end credits hit and you We're just trying to process everything. And you are our guest. You are the new ensign on the ship here, so we'll give you the opportunity to kick things off.
There was a lot going on, and honestly, my first thoughts as the credits began to roll was, and forgive me, as much as I am looking forward to season 3 and seeing all of our old crew, why is there a season 3? Because that ending was so just perfect, you know. And I think I said the same thing last season. So, you know, maybe they're just good at ending the season. So, you know. But it was beautiful. It was heavy in all of the places it needed to be. It had a few lighthearted moments. I have a lot of questions that we'll see. Some may get answered, some might not. But overall, it's good. And I'm looking forward to watching all 10 episodes again, because I think that'll really, watching them all in a row and knowing where it goes is going to help with some of the questions.
Good points. Amy, I want your reaction.
Yeah. Well, coming off the heels of recording, you know, and how that went and just all the questions, and we were just so curious as to how can they even answer all the questions. And then they go and do it so beautifully. They even answer a question I wasn't even asking about Wesley Crusher. So I know it tied things up in a bow, but it didn't feel like it was just this pretty bow. It felt substance. It felt their characters grew. It was beautiful, beautiful, well done. And it was a very good send-off farewell to those who we won't see. Yeah.
Mr. Reitzel, you had some strong words last episode about Picard, and I know you had some trepidation going into the season finale. So I'm curious. We had a little quick conversation off mic about some of your thoughts on this, but what were your reactions to the season finale of Star Trek Picard season 2?
Well, I probably had some strong words on social media recently too, where, you know, I was a little let down with this season of Picard, because knowing there was going to be some space travel and Q and Guinan coming in, I was really, really excited. But I was underwhelmed by the execution of this story and how things were kind of not coming together and then not coming together. I've discussed that, but also one of my concerns was I wasn't finding new Star Trek, live action Star Trek, rewatchable for me. I wasn't going back and wanting to rewatch certain episodes and stuff like that, and I was enjoying the animated series more, to be honest with you, because of this non-episodic full season arc storytelling that I'm getting a little burned out on. You know, I'm missing the episodic stuff, you know. And but I gotta say, this episode of Star Trek Picard really, I'm just gonna be honest, it made me cry. It really did. It did. When freaking Picard hugs Q, I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
I lost it, because I've always enjoyed that relationship between those two, and I've always wanted a moment like that where they just put the crap aside. Exactly, yeah, there's a picture. They just put the crap aside, and we find out, you know, and I always kind of had a feeling that Q admired Picard and had an interest in him, and that's why he always kind of kept coming back to him. And, you know, we learned a little bit more about, you know, Q in this as well, and I just think Q needed a hug, and we got it, you know. And that moment is one of my favorite moments in recent Star Trek history. I've been waiting that for so long. And Chrissy, it's interesting you say that about, you know, what are we going to get for season 3? And part of me was like, well, obviously we're going to get. We've been teased the TNG crew returning. Let's let Picard find some love. Let's get a Picard air out there again, and let's have the next Picard kind of continue the future. Let's have that happen. That's what I want. I want a Picard baby. Let's make it happen.
You're bringing up questions about android bodies that I don't necessarily want answers to.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work, but you know what? Star Trek will find a way.
There's some DNA manipulation that can be done. There's some old
true.
Picard
I'm
DNA on
sure
file.
adoption is still around. Let's make that happen.
There you go.
There we go. So, Kevin, you are our top-notch security officer, which means you also are able to find some Easter eggs here. We got one pretty interesting one, though. For not a lot for Picard coming out, but one pretty interesting one. So why don't you cue the listeners and the viewers here on this little Easter egg tidbit?
And the final scene in Guinan's bar, Whoopi Goldberg plays Guinan, of course, is seen together with Patrick Stewart, and Patrick Stewart is seen together with Michelle Hurd, Jerry Ryan, and Evan Goria, Elnor. But the three of them never appear in the same shot as Whoopi Goldberg. Guinan is briefly seen from behind in a couple of shots with the trio, and the back of Elnor is seen in one shot of Whoopi, likely an attempt to use body doubles to disguise the fact that they were not on all at the set at the same time, which makes sense when you think about all the COVID restrictions that was going on during this time. So they got a little clever with that. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even notice it the first time I watched it, but I had to go back and watch that scene again because it was really cool.
I did pick up on that. Well, actually, the part that I was like, oh, that's supposed to be Elnor, but I knew it wasn't, but I knew it was supposed to be. So I do remember that part.
Yeah.
A little piece of that's interesting trivia. And, again, with the COVID restrictions, I wish we could have gotten a shot of all of them together, though. I think that would have been, and maybe even had it with a shot with all of them with the young Guinan as well. I would have somehow incorporated that, but it was that whole scene was just so well done and such a great scene. But guys, it's time. We've got some things we need to talk about with this episode. So it's time to activate the transporter and head into some away missions. Okay, guys, away mission 1, wrapping the season up with a Q-shaped bow. We talked a little bit about this last week, and I had some strong opinions on this myself, about Q being the ultimate fix for all the problems that had been left hanging after the 9th episode of the season. And that's ultimately what did happen. Q was the ultimate fix to get everybody back to their proper time, place, to bring back Elnor. What we kind of knew this was coming. I think it was kind of a safety net for the writers this season, and that's, in my personal opinion, that allowed them to do some of the things, questionable or not. But are we satisfied ultimately that Q is the fix? Amy, you and I kind of talked about this a little off mic. Why don't you share your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we knew from the beginning, and that was sort of one thing that Kevin and I were talking about, like with Elnor being dead. Well, no, Q's going to snap his fingers and we're going to go back and everything will be okay. So even from the beginning, we knew it had to be a Q fix because it was Q who put him to the Confederate. So I see that it is and can be looked at lazy, but that's the whole idea of a Q story. Every single Q story is a snap of the fingers, and now we're coming back to reality. So I don't think it should be anything that we begrudge or act surprised, because that's Q in every episode, isn't it?
Kevin, what about you?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about this?
I'm fine with it now. It was done well. It was done well. And when we had discussed it, but going into the scene, it all had left my memory that we had discussed that this was going to be, a fix, I guess. But all the other stuff had to happen first and fall into place. And learn that, I guess, Q is basically going to die, go away. And it was a nice way to send off his character, and also be able to fix a few things on the way. So I think the bigger message is not worrying about if it was a quick fix or done right or wrong, but that we got an ending to it and it was satisfactory. A little bit more than satisfactory, to be honest with you. I mean, it made me cry. So.
Chrissy, I think that's why this worked, and that's why I'm not like losing my mind over it because it was so emotionally well handled, and you got that emotional point. So I'm curious, how, did it work for you, and what was the reason for you why it worked?
Yeah, I thought it worked very well. I Going into this at the beginning of the season, I really expected it to end with Q offering Picard a place in the continuum. I've always felt that was where that story was going to end up, and I was so having Q dying, it was quite a surprise, but it worked. Um, and having them, I don't know if reconcile is the right word, but having them have those moments, uh, not something I ever expected, but now that I've seen it, it was perfect. It worked very well, and I want to go back and watch all of the Q episodes now with that in mind and see, obviously they didn't have that in mind at the time, but they're so good at throwing these things together and picking up on the little connections and all that. I just love it. It was like a
Chrissy,
season long.
I wanted to
Oh, go
ask you real quick, because as
Yeah.
a teacher, when when he says those words, because Picard's like, "Why me?" And he's like, "You matter to me," and
Yeah.
isn't that enough? And that just hit my teacher brain, and I'm like, every student, I say this hopefully in my deeds to every student that comes into my classroom. Why
Yeah.
is it enough? Because you matter to me. Can that be enough? It was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And just because I can't help but comment on it, it really did. Amidst all of the emotional heaviness and almost the love between the characters, I'm not going to go quite that far, but almost. I couldn't help but remember I think it was All Good Things, when Data makes the comment about how Q always felt like Picard, or he felt that Picard was treated by Q like a beloved pet.
Mm.
I know that totally undermines it. That makes it sound so much less important, but I couldn't help but think of that at the time. And so as I was in tears over their hug and this relationship, I kind of had to laugh too, because it was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was very good.
Kevin, Chrissy brought up a very interesting point too about wanting to go back and watch the Q episodes, because we talked last week about how we felt some of the things that happened in the season of Picard have changed how we look at prior storylines with Picard as well. But I'm curious for you, Kevin, does what happens with Q at the end of this, does this change how you might see Q when you go back and rewatch some of those Q episodes?
Yeah, because I know the hug's coming. I gotta tell you though, I keep jumping to the Voyager episodes with the wife, girlfriend, and the son, and I'm wondering, like, could that be brought up later? I mean, they seem to be sewing up some loose ends here and stuff like that, because John Delancey Q, if I don't ever see him again, that's fine. He had a great run, but I'm not done with the Q continuum. I'd like to kind of see some evolution of them, and whether it's some more hierarchy issues or something, some evolution. I don't want to be done with them. That's what was jumping at my mind when I was, thinking about it at the end of this recent episode. So yeah.
Very good point, Kevin. Moving on though,
Oh,
because
Amy,
Yeah, please let's not move on. I just had this thought while Chrissy was talking, so thank you. Sort of, going back to Q episodes, and when Q was like, okay, I'm going to send you back with a little extra energy as his little gift. That really was a Q gift, because what happened was that Picard was able to think outside of the box, change his mind about the Borg and saying, oh, we can work with the Borg. And that's when, right, the havoc stops and we meet Girardi, Queen. But that's just like he did in All Good Things at the Devron system, right? Where he was like, why are you doing this? To expand your mind, to make you think time can move backwards, like it. And that was yet again another gift that Q gave to Picard. Like, I just love his gifts because we learn so much from them.
You reminded me, he said energy, like giving you some energies. Is he not changing Picard, is he?
No, it was just and I've got a little extra energy, and that's what
Okay.
the
See,
queen was protecting him from.
Gotcha.
I took that extra energy as the energy to bring Elnor back to life.
So did
That
I.
too. It
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
mean all of it.
Yeah.
Because
that's-
it's that energy that's what unites, because total annihilation of everyone. Well, okay, I'll work together. Twist my arm. That's what he did.
No, it makes you think about all the possibilities there, and that's always one thing when I love when Star Trek makes you think like that. But guys, I do want to talk about too one of the things that happened in this season finale, because it felt like it's a little bit of out with the new because we're getting ready to go in with the old. We have definitely said goodbye to some of our new crew from Picard, as it has been confirmed by the actors as well that Rios, Corey, Girardi, and Elnor will not be back for season 3 of Picard. Obviously, Rios' story kind of ran its course. Corey, with the Traveler thing, you might have been able to see him back. Girardi, I'm a little surprised, especially if they were having any plans for this, whatever this event was in this final episode, to be something that carries over into season 3, because it felt like that's something, the way they talked about it could have been something that carries over to season 3. Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd are confirmed to be coming back for season 3. But I want to ask you guys, as we're saying goodbye to these characters, how are you feeling about this? Amy, I'm going to start with you on this one.
I love this ending, this future, this newness, this creation. I mean, I talked about it last week. You would think that it was a zero-sum game, win or lose, but no, we're getting a new creation of the Borg Queen, and I freaking love it. Like, that is the most Trek thing ever.
I agree with you. I think what they did with Girardi was the most interesting thing as far as how they wrote out some of these characters. I actually really preferred how they handled Rios too, because that just felt natural. That was the one thing throughout this season that felt like the natural progression.
Called it.
Was Rios. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Chrissy, how are you feeling with the fact that these characters are leaving us? I'm a huge Rios fan, so I'm a little disappointed with that, but I'm happy with how they finished his story. How are you feeling the fact that these characters we just now are really starting to fall in love with completely, and now they're leaving us?
I went through the whole season asking myself, is Rios going to stay, or are the Doctor and her son going to go? And I went back and forth and back and forth. And so I knew it was going to be one or the other, and it made more sense for him to stay. So that one was, I think we could see that coming. Once it became obvious that Girardi was going to be the new Borg Queen, again, probably not going to see her anymore. It makes sense to me that we're not going to see Isa Briones. I mean, Soji's story about, working with acceptance of artificial life like that isn't something we really need to get back into. Maybe not knowing what the story is for the next season, of course, but I don't see that being necessary. So, it works. It works. I don't understand why we won't see Elnor anymore, honestly. Because if we're working in and around Starfleet and we're seeing Raffi, there's absolutely no reason that he couldn't be around. But that might be, I don't know if that's Evan Evangoria. Maybe he's doing something else. Maybe he's stepping back from acting. I don't know. So, yeah. But it's easy to say Elnor's at the Academy. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Kevin, what about you? How are you feeling about this situation as we say goodbye to the new already?
I love that Rios is staying around. I love that idea. I guess it makes more sense than him going to the future and taking the Doctor and her kid with him. And it was nice to kind of get a little synopsis of their lives through Guinan. It was nice to hear that he die in a Moroccan bar fight or something like that.
Yeah,
that was great. I don't know why, but I thought that loud. I thought that was great. And I got to say, I always love a man that has a cigar, you know, and kind of was bringing back some George Peppard flashbacks for me, you know, and he just looked so cool when he was holding it, you know. And, I really enjoyed his character arc on there, and I'm going to miss Alison Pill. I liked her as Girardi. It's going to be interesting to see where her character if it continues through another type of media or whatever. And you know, Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd coming back is a good thing, and I like those two together. So yeah,
Captain Seven.
yeah.
So I'm curious to see if that's going to be.
Give her a ship, yes. Oh man,
Yeah.
oh man, that would be fun.
Yeah. So since we're talking about people leaving the show, you brought up Soji, Chrissy, but let's talk about Corey, because I really kind of felt like the whole season it was just kind of an add-on thing to have Issa on the show. But however, the ultimate payoff was probably the biggest surprise of this episode, as this guy made an unexpected appearance in the season finale of Picard. Nobody saw this coming, and it was wonderful. We all have been wanting Will Wheaton to hopefully make an appearance on Picard, hopefully when they had more next gen casts on or everything like. But to have him come on in this way so unexpectedly was just such a wonderful moment. Kevin, I was shocked. I was legitimately surprised and shocked when this happened.
Yeah, this made me so happy because in a way I kind of feel that Will got the shaft a little bit when it came to, if I remember correctly, didn't his scene in Star Trek Nemesis at the wedding or something get cut? Am I remembering that right? Can you guys confirm that?
Yes.
Yeah, he was supposed to be there, which would have been nice because we could have maybe gotten a line or two about, you know, him and his travels and something. And so it was nice that the creators and the writers got together and said, let's kind of not necessarily sew this canon thread up, but just to let you know that he's still around and he's doing his thing. And it was really, really nice to see him, the way that he came across as a traveler. He feels like that he has so many adventures under his belt, and that he's so wise now. And Will is always great, you know, when we see him on the radio room and doing interviews. And it's nice to see him translate that and being someone in charge, wanting to help people. And I want to know more now about his character, what he has been through. And I'm just so glad they got him back. Thank God.
Chrissy, were you as shocked as everybody else? Because, like I said, I don't think anybody could predict this. I predicted this one.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I unfortunately had it a little bit spoiled for me because I made the mistake of looking at Twitter, and so I saw it, but I just saw it as a still, and it was just that picture like you have where it's just his face. So I was like, is that spoiled? Because I didn't notice that was Corey on the other side. I'm like, is that spoiled, or is that just somebody took a picture of him and was trying to say he was in the episode? So yeah, I was surprised to see him, but it wasn't as much of a surprise as I hadn't seen that. I really loved seeing him here though, because it brought it together with the Coda trilogy. I don't have you guys read the end of series for the
No,
so good. Without getting into spoilers, because they are still relatively new, so I don't want to it's not like spoiling something that's been around for 20 years, but Wesley as a traveler plays a huge part in wrapping up how that continuity with the novels for the last 20 years is dealt with. And so to see him here and to see him and have him with that, it's just yet another connection, and it's beautifully done, and that just made me so happy.
Hey, real quick, does this mean that there's a strong possibility that we could have him come in with this reunion season that we're going to apparently see and have a nice moment with him and his mom, Beverly? You know, I just thought about that. That would be really nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. And because Gates McFadden, you know, it's like, oh, I wish that we would have had more son and mother time on screen, you know, so they both would enjoy that.
Now, Amy, you are our lover of all things next gen here. So
Mhm.
I know this one had to hit home real, the surprise. But
Yeah.
got
And I
ya.
was actually watching deleted scenes for our little series on Galaxy Class. And so I had just watched that deleted scene of Nemesis. And there is Wesley in his uniform. And so listen on Galaxy Class. I won't say what I said there, but yeah, it just was like, oh my gosh, get that out of there. Wesley made the choice in Preemptive Strike to become a traveler. That's his dream. To me, that's Trek. And so to see this come back to reinforce that you'd be you is reinforced. Oh, I just loved it. And it made sense. It worked surprisingly, and I'm just a little upset at Will Wheaton for lying to us all those times on the Ready Room. So
No, we'll get
on
to
my
that in a
shit
little bit. We'll
Will,
get
if
to
you're
that in a little bit.
listening,
If you're listening, tell everybody to listen to this.
Yeah, exactly.
Just before we step
Yeah,
away
go
from
ahead,
that, I
Kristen.
just want to say I love that they connected the travelers with the supervisors and the Gary 7 group. And
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, a connection that I never would have thought, but makes perfect sense.
yeah.
So that was beautiful. Yeah.
It all comes together in a nice
Mm-hmm.
Q-shaped bow. That brings us to our second away mission. And guys, this is kind of a look back and a look ahead. Now that we have all of season 2 of Picard as a whole, I'm kind of curious to, now that you've watched it all, and obviously probably will in some cases rewatch it again now that everything's out. Amy, I'm going to start with you. What is your feeling on Picard season 2 as a whole?
As a whole, I think I did a little roller coaster. Loved the first part, got drawn out a little in the later part, and then came back with this amazing episode. And I was talking to my mom actually about it because we both really enjoyed it, and she made a good point. It was very interesting and good. It adds context to Picard's character. I just don't think we needed to spend that many minutes, hours on it. The story could have been told not quicker, but in a shorter amount of time, and sort of allowed, and I would have preferred to have that time transferred to Raffi and Seven. Because I think Seven's character arc, with her finally accepting her Borg part, that could have been developed more. And I would have liked, I don't see Raffi developing. She's still being manipulative. She's still being like, she could have done a little bit more like that. So I think I would have taken time from the flashback part of it and added it somewhere else. But with that said, I think it's a really good season. I liked season 1 a lot, so it's neck and neck for me. I need to let season 2 marinate a little bit more because I really did enjoy season 1.
Mr. Reitzel, what about you? But you've had some very strong opinions on this season of Picard, so I'm curious as you can look back at it as a whole now.
I was resonated with what Amy just said. I agree with everything that she was saying, especially with the flashbacks and stuff like that. And I'm going to cross the streams here and do my best Emperor Palpatine voice here and say, "Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Picard?" I'm sorry, but we did not need to see this haunted past of his mother hanging by a homemade noose, and that had to. I just, that just did not that just did not work with me. I'm sorry. We didn't need all of that and this haunted stuff and caverns and boogeymen and weird Battlestar Galactica actor father not being a cool dad and all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. That just pulled me down under the water with this season. And those are episodes I'm not going to revisit. I'm sorry. And a part of me is not going to keep it headcanon. That's how I felt. And I mentioned that last episode, and I think that's where it took a wrong turn for me. I don't mind giving a little tragedy but we don't need to make it a mine F episode and take you through the scary tunnel. We just did not need to do that. And I'm glad that it wrapped up well. But the dark side of Picard's past, when I watch TNG, that's not going to sit with me. Not accepting.
Oh.
Sorry.
Chrissy, Kevin Cross the stream, so I'm going to say, what were your thoughts as a whole on season 2 by your command?
Overall, I think it was a good story. I think there's a lot of important commentary in it. I absolutely adored the political commentary at the beginning, and I wish we would have had a little more of that. But then we'll talk about Strange New Worlds and why that is maybe a better place to have that, at least for that part. I don't know how to feel about adding the stuff about Picard's family. I really don't. I love the idea that we have shown, first of all, that mental health issues are something that need to be addressed. They need to not be stigmatized. That even in the post-scarcity, wonderful society that the 24th century Federation is supposed to be, we still have people who deal with depression, who deal with all of these issues. But I don't. Seeing his mother hanged was tough, but I guess that's the point, because it's supposed to be tough. That's not even the right word for it. I have to say, though, I started the season thinking that we were going to find out Maurice was a wife beater. So I was kind of glad that wasn't the case, but to have it be traded for this, there's no good place. And it would have made more sense to me to have his father be abusive in general, just because he's using his own life. Stewart is using his own life for that. So if he could have used that as an exploration of dealing with what his own father dealt with. For people who don't know, his father dealt with absolutely devastating PTSD after World War II and took it out on his wife and son, because that was what people did then. But at the same time, okay, this gives us all of the context for why Picard wanted to run away. He got out of that house and did not go back from the earliest point that he could. And now we know why. And we also get an idea of maybe why his relationship with his father and his brother was so bad. Because those type of instances, it's either going to pull you together or push you apart. And given what happened, Robert not being there, maybe he doesn't know the entire circumstances. Maybe he does. Certainly Maurice does. Is he blaming Jean-Luc for what happened, even though there really is no blame to be had? Is Jean-Luc perceiving him as blaming him? Is that why there's the conflict between them? So I think fleshing that out was important, but it didn't require killing Yvette. So I'm not sure yet. That's a long way around to say I'm not sure, but
I think it's a valid point, because I think for me too, that was one of my things with the season of Picard, is I felt like with that story, it was almost dragged out too much throughout the season, and it just got darker and darker and darker. And I think too, and I expressed my feelings on this in a prior episode of Union Federation, I'm not sure that the writers properly handled mental illness, especially in the climactic episode where we get the revelation of what had happened. And I think that's something where they needed to take a step back and really confer with some people before they move forward. I think they could have done this and still done it in this kind of impactful way, but in a different way of approaching it. And I think it's still a very good storyline in the aspect of, okay, this is maybe why Picard doesn't feel like he can commit to anybody in a love interest. That's why it's always, and why he went to Starfleet. And I think there's a lot of that, but I think they just took it too dark, and I think they used it too much to take away from what could have been some great more character development to some of the other characters, like you were talking about with Raffi and Seven, especially. I would have liked to see more Rios. I think they did some really fun things with Rios, and I really do think Rios was kind of the energy of this season. He was kind of the bright light in this darkness that we had in this season, and I even think too that they short sold Q in a way. We should have had more Q in these episodes. It just felt like, oh, okay, we haven't had Q in a couple episodes. Now we're going to throw him in now, and until it wasn't until the end that we finally got the resolution with that. But I just felt like they could have played up a little bit more on that. Overall, I'm not going to say it was a bad season of Picard. I think it was enjoyable and it had some great moments to it, but I'm with Amy. I think I'm leaning towards season 1 as more enjoyable, as a rewatchable season for me as well. I think this season of Picard has its moments, but it's so heavy and it's so just weighs on you with darkness in some of these episodes that it does make it harder to rewatch. So that's kind of where I fall on it. But guys, I also want to look ahead because the future is bright, because we're about to see a bunch of old faces return and something we've all been wanting since season 1 of Picard, when we got a taste of it with Riker and Troy showing up in season 1. But now we're going to get it. We are getting the true next gen reunion, obviously a little bit at the cost of some of our newer characters, but we are excited about this. So I'm going to ask everybody, and Kevin, I'm going to start with you on this. Do you have any predictions for season 3, or do you have any hopes for season 3 that you want to share out there?
I'm hoping, I'm not getting my hopes up that we're going to get the entire TNG crew for every single episode all the way through. I don't know how they're going to handle that, so I'm keeping my expectations tempered. I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to incorporate them, and if they're going to kind of take the same season-long story arc approach, or if they're going to try to do some interesting episodic stuff and then maybe kind of wrap up maybe a larger arc or do something like that. I want really good character moments, and I hope that we get answers that we've been kind of wondering about, relationships between them. But more importantly, what I want to find out is where Starfleet is with the position of where all of our wonderful characters are coming from. You know, like what's Worf up to? What's B4 Data? What's that going to happen? You know, and in Wesley or whatever. Love to see, Frakes and Marina back as well. That would be great. Or their daughter, maybe. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I'm not expecting it to, them to be in every single episode, but I do want Picard to find some love. So there we go. Yeah, I know. I like it. Come on.
The man just got married. It's running through his veins right now.
It is.
Nothing wrong with
Chrissy, what about you? Season 3, any hopes, predictions, anything that you're grabbing your attention that they could do in season 3?
The last 2 seasons have really been about dealing with mortality and accepting it and accepting some really difficult parts of life. Let's not do that this time. Let's have some fun. I fully expect Picard to be dead at the end of it. I do, because that's the only wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he but let's have it not be the focus of the whole season. I would like to see Kestra again. I think that would be fun. It would be nice to see maybe, or at least get mention of some other people, like, just somebody drop a line about what Tom Paris and B'Elanna are doing, or even if Seven keeps that field commission that she got, we'll see if that actually takes, right? She could talk about, I'm bringing on Harry Kim, who's not an ensign anymore. Yay. I want Picard to have some love in his life. I am not happy that it's not Beverly Crusher, but other than that, I'm hoping for that for him. Worf, captain of the Enterprise. I mean, that's been the general thought there. We know Geordi was working at Utopia Planitia. That's not there anymore. So what is he doing? So yeah, just one episode per character, even if we just or per, I'd be 2 with Deanna and Will, but yeah, that would work.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking they're not going to be all together, and especially when you read that trivia with Whoopi not being in the same shot. I was like, Picard could, have to solve this puzzle. Wouldn't it be cool if it was like the chase oriented? And, has to go to Geordi for this part, and then he's going to get this and get this knowledge or technology or figure it out. And then, he needs to go visit, Deanna and Will. Mm-hmm. And I could see him doing this bit by bit type of thing. And then where it comes all together, we get them all.
Yeah. I was fully expecting a cliffhanger at the end of this season, mm-hmm. where we have some kind of note that was left behind that then, Captain Worf and the Enterprise and everybody comes together to get them back from 2024. So, I'm glad we don't have a cliffhanger, but at the same time, I thought it was just going to bleed right into next season for that. So, and then I thought they were going to go explore the transwarp conduit, but the Borg are sitting there watching that. So, yeah, okay.
So, I'm going to equate this final season of Picard, Kevin. You'll understand where I'm coming from. It's the premier athlete retirement tour season. You know how when an athlete announces his retirement before the season and then makes all the rounds going through all the cities and everything like that. I think they're going to have some fun with this, though. I do think that unlike other franchises, you will get a group shot of everybody before the season is over.
Yeah.
I think that's a given.
Yeah, they don't want to do what the Star Wars sequel didn't do,
Yeah. I wasn't going to go there. I was just going to leave it hanging, but
I did.
I do think that you are going to maybe see a little bit of tribute to original Trek films. I could see where the crew comes together and they hijack the Enterprise, maybe to go on a mission with Picard. Kind of reminiscent of hijacking the Enterprise to go save Spock and search for Spock.
They did that in All Good Things.
Yeah.
Beverly's like, if Jean-Luc Picard wants one more mission, then we're going to give him one more mission. We've done that. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to throw that out there, but I want to throw out another just quick theory real quick before we wrap up Picard here, guys. Because I think Picard, this season of Picard, and hearing you guys talk and something I've had in the back of my head, I think it set up a possible new Star Trek show, and it all depends on Jerry Ryan. Oh. I think they have set up something for Jerry Ryan to be the captain of the Stargazer, with this transwarp conduit being the topic of the first season, and a reason to bring it back Elnor, keep Raffi in the fold, bring back the Borg Queen Jurati version of the Borg Queen. I think that they could have something planned like that. I don't know if I'm giving the writers too much credit at this point, but I could really see that as something that could be in play, and I think it might be entirely up to Jerry Ryan. So, guys, I'm just throwing that out there. Any thoughts? Anybody want to jump in on that?
As long as they visit Vasquez Rocks and Raffi pulls up her, her trailer again and have a moment there, that'd be great. But I would love that. That'd be good. So.
I like that. One of the big questions I have is what's going on with the Borg? Mm-hmm. Are we going to have the new Borg and the old Borg meet? Do the old Borg even exist anymore? So that would be a good way to explore that.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, Paramount, call me. Yep. We can work out some finances here. I'm just saying. With that, though, we're going to wrap up our own bow on the season finale of Star Trek Picard. And we're going to take a quick break, tell you what else is going on around the Fandom Podcast Network. And when we come back, it's time to talk about this Strange New Worlds. But first, here's what's going on around the Fandom Podcast Network.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We'd like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to these other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, discussing the latest in entertainment pop culture. Bloody Kings, Immortals Take Notice, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theaters, where we celebrate our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie and TV pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville show. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our show covering the time-traveling Doctor Who universe with host Dan Hadley. Lethal Mullet, an 80s and 90s action film podcast with host Adam P. O'Brien. Also check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast with hosts Scott, Derek, and Nathan. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast, a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. And check out our newest shows, The Fandom Show, our monthly Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube exclusive show about the month's hottest topics in fandom, and the FPN True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the related Marvel television and streaming MCU universe, including the connections to the original Marvel comics. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on several platforms. Please subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel to receive notifications of new podcast episodes and live events. You can enjoy all of the Fandom Podcast Network audio podcasts on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. The Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast and iTunes. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find the Fandom Podcast Network on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network and on Twitter at FanPod Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
And we're back, and we hope you're enjoying everything that you're listening to on the Fandom Podcast Network. Just like we hope that going forward, you will enjoy everything you listen to on BQN as well. So with that, guys, it's time to re-engage that quantum drive because we need to talk a little Strange New Worlds. Okay, guys, it's here. It finally arrived. In my opinion, maybe the most anticipated show to hit the Paramount Plus era of Star Trek in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We got a taste of this, obviously, in season 2 of Discovery, but now the full show is here, and it's been a source of a lot of excitement for a lot of Trek fans. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right in. Amy Nelson, would you care to give us the first entry into the captain's log of Strange New Worlds?
3 months since the Discovery Season 2 finale, Pike has been living on a secluded ranch in Montana, refusing to answer Starfleet's communications as he allows himself to grow out his hair and beard while contemplating what he witnessed about his own tragic future. After Pike's girlfriend leaves to take her own command, Pike is approached by Admiral Robert April to reclaim the helm of the Enterprise after his old number one, Una Chin Riley, goes missing on a first contact mission. On Vulcan, Spock meets with T'Pring, a woman he has been courting since his youth, for dinner. T'Pring proposes marriage to Spock, who readily accepts, leading to a romantic night between the two that is interrupted by a call from Pike. To T'Pring's visible annoyance, Spock accepts Pike's request for him to reunite with him on the Enterprise and discover what exactly happened to their colleague. Cleaning up, the two officers arrive at the starship as refits and repairs to the Enterprise are completed, and the ship is cleared to venture back into space. Among the new faces greeting Pike and Spock are First Officer Lon Noonien Singh, Communications Officer Nyota Uhura, and Helmsman Erica Ortegas. As the Enterprise nears Chin Riley's last known location, they find the entire crew missing and a glaring anomaly with the nearby civilization's technological capabilities. Noonien Singh senses an imminent threat and suggests Pike raise the Enterprise shields. Shortly after doing so, the ship is attacked by a missile strike from the service. Spock deduces that the civilization has developed warp capabilities as a weapon instead of a means of transportation. Deciding to disguise themselves to investigate the civilization firsthand, Pike and his landing party meet Dr. Mbenga and Nurse Christine Chapel to modify their physical appearances accordingly. The landing party infiltrates the detonation facility and frees Una and her crew from imprisonment, just as Spock's disguise wears off due to his unique physiology. Una reveals the civilization witnessed the Discovery being transported to the 32nd century, resulting in them being able to reverse engineer warp capabilities. Realizing this means Starfleet and the Enterprise are responsible for this technological shift, Pike and Spock remain behind to meet with the planet's leadership personally. With diplomatic means failing, Pike orders the Enterprise to fully reveal itself, promoting the civilization and dropping their hardline stance. With a peaceful resolution underway, Noonien soon reveals elements of her traumatic backstory to a sympathetic Pike and Spock. Encouraged, Pike personally takes point on the peace talks and recounts Earth's cataclysmically violent history in a successful effort for this new world to learn from their mistakes and join the Federation. Chen Riley rejoins the Enterprise as Pike's number one, with Noonan Soong headed security at Pike's request. The crew is completed by the arrival of Science Officer Samuel Kirk, with Pike commanding the starship into deep space as it boldly goes where no one has gone before.
Okay, guys, we've all been waiting for this. We've been very excited for this. So let's just dive right into it. Kevin Reitzel, I want to start with you on this because I've been very interested to see your response to this show because of how you felt about modern Trek so far. So I want to know, what was your first reaction to Strange New Worlds?
Episodic episode. Oh, I'm so excited. It was great. And gotta say, that scene with Spock and his girl, whoo, man.
Yeah.
I love seeing that in Trek. Man, great. And of course, Captain's like, won't tell you what I was really thinking right now. But, I love the way it started. I love the Grizzly Adams look there on our Pike. That was great. And watching the old film, of course, Day the Earth Stood Still. I just loved how we got introduced to the characters kind of on the way. I thought that was great. And I just thought, even though we've seen First Contact missions so much through Trek, it's always good to see them again and just handled a bit differently each time. And loved that brightly colored bridge. Loved it. It was so well lit. Yeah. It brought me back. I love music. I love the tech, and yeah, this was a big fun episode to watch. Yeah, I'll go into more of it later, but that's my first reaction.
Chrissy, what about you? How did you feel after watching Strange New Worlds?
I love it. It's wonderful. I love the. I was talking about the political commentary before. We got it here too. I love that. The getting more in depth with some of the stories. I absolutely love that they brought T'Pring in. I wasn't sure how to feel about it, but now it just makes Amok Time so much more like painful for Spock, because I don't know about you guys, but I always thought they got betrothed at like 7 and never saw each other again, and now a whole other level. And you can see her thought process with it. Like, I'm not going to sit around and wait for you. And do all Starfleet captains just go sit in the mountains when they're not on their ships? I mean, that was, yeah, at least the ones from that generation. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to watching it more. I watched this one with my mom. She loves it. She loved Picard. We haven't seen season 2 yet because scheduling has not allowed for it. But this one she's super excited about. She did not like Discovery. Just couldn't get into it. It was too new or whatever. I'm not sure. But it was nice to see her so excited about it too. So, yeah.
That's very interesting that your mom didn't like Discovery. My mom didn't like Discovery either. And I'd be like, telling her, well, did you watch? No, I didn't really care for it. And so when Picard, she's like, that's it. She put it in her calendar. My cute mom.
Yes. Love
So
it.
she wouldn't forget. And so she had Picard on there. And so, yeah, that's funny. But yeah, my mom didn't care for Discovery either. Sorry.
I
Continue.
think I might be able to get her to watch season 2 now for context sake, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So
Amy, and we had an interesting conversation about this because you've done Strange New Worlds in a couple different ways now. Because you did a watch party for it, you told me,
Yes.
and then you had to kind of rewatch it because you wanted to be able to watch it with pure focus.
Yes. So absolutely. Friday night, some local Trekkies, Chris Tribuzio, friend of the network. Oh, why did I say that? He wasn't there, but I wanted him there. Anyways, so we got together and we all made like these Star Trek dishes from Star Trek the Cookbook
Love it.
or Star Trek the Cocktail Book. It was really fun, but there were people there and people make noises. There's no shame, nothing. It's just what happens. There were dogs bark. Like, it was no fault. I'm just describing the facts. And the facts were I couldn't really hear. There were other people. It wasn't. Anyways, so I did get to watch it again with my closed captioning on so I could actually read and understand what's going on. I loved it. Yes, very much agree. Everything with what you say, Kevin. T'Pring, I fell in love with that relationship. She's amazing. I'm all on board for that. And like you were saying, they got their individual intros. Like, I feel like I know the crew way more than I know the Discovery crew, right, Kevin?
Yes.
And we
Yes.
got the little introduction. There's things that we want to know more, but excellent. Very well done. It was a little heavy. I felt exploring Pike's discovery, what happened to him on Borath. That seemed in contrast to sort of the lightheartedness. I don't know. It just seemed so heavy. And maybe it's because it was on the tails of Picard. I sort of would like it to not be that heavy for every character. Like, yeah.
It's a fair point, Amy, but I think one of the things with this episode was I think they addressed it for the biggest part of it in this episode to get it out of the way. I mean, I think it's going to still be something that affects Pike going forward, but I think they got the heaviness out of the way in this episode and they addressed it.
Okay.
Personally, I love this episode. I love the feel of it, hearing some of that classic Star Trek music, having that feel, seeing the Enterprise and the energy. This show just felt like it had a positive energy to it. And that's something that I haven't felt from either Picard or Discovery, is a positive energy. Everything is either dark or doom and gloom or universal crises. And I'm actually looking forward to the fact that we are getting to episodic Star Trek again instead of an overarching storyline. Now, there might, from some things that were said in the Red Room, it sounds like what might happen with this is there's certain character moments that might carry through on the show as far as that goes, and that makes sense. I can roll with that, but it's not going to be this storyline that's going to weigh down the season, and I think that's a lot of fun. But yeah, it was energy, it was fun, and it brought back my sense of wonderment to Star Trek, my sense of exploration, my sense of what Star Trek was originally founded on, boldly going where no man has gone before. The 5-year mission, all of that, it just brought back everything that felt good to me in Star Trek. Amy.
Can I ask a question to you guys who know much more about TOS and stuff like that? It felt like the language and the choice of words that say Admiral April, or is that his last name?
Yeah.
Okay. The Admiral April was talking so casually to Pike. Pike was talking so casually to Spock. Like, we don't see that in Discovery. It's very proper. It's very Federation. We know we're in this organization. And I feel like we get that in TNG, the Admiral and Picard talking proper. We get it in Picard. Like, so to have them, hey, please impose, and Pike using his slang all the time, and even, Admiral April using the slang. Like, why are they doing that with Strange New Worlds? What's different about Starfleet in this era?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things here. One, they kind of even established this a little bit in Discovery. I think it has to do with Christopher Pike himself as the captain and how he relates to the crew and how he runs his ship. And I think I'm going to say it right now. He's already rapidly climbing up on my favorite captain, Star Trek captain, at the Anson Mount is. But I also think it's because you're going back into a time where there was just certain differences. And I think when you look at Discovery, and obviously Discovery starting in that same time, but Discovery was basically a black ops kind of ship almost. It was kind of a secret within the Federation. So they acted differently, and they've been through some horrendous stuff. While the Enterprise is that ship of discovery, that is the ship of going out there and exploring the new. And I think that's, at least for me, that's part of the reason why. Kevin or Chrissy, do either of you have some thoughts on this?
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Thank you. I just we see that kind of relaxed atmosphere on the Shenzhou, I think, a bit. What little time we have with them, because you get that like banter with Saru and Michael and the captain and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's like an episode and a half that we get it, but it's there. But I think it is Pike. And I think that's something that, we always knew Picard was formal. We get Picard's formal from the beginning. He doesn't even want to look at children, much less anything else, deal with anything else on a personal level. And we all found out why this week, but that's a different thing. But yeah, I think it's Pike. I think it is the time. Remember cowboy diplomacy? This is that era. So you get a little bit of that. But I like it. I like seeing things a little more relaxed. There's a time and a place for both.
Yeah.
Really.
I like it. It just caught me. It was different.
Yeah.
I found it very refreshing, to be honest with you. Not so serious, and I like that, I think the characters know, when you're believing that they can relax with the captain when the captain lets them be, and that when business is business, they're going to jump right into it, and it also was nice that the confidence that Pike had in, yeah, you're right, get the shields up. I'm going to trust your opinion on that. And I thought that was a key moment in that episode, letting you know what type of captain that Pike is, and that he has full confidence in his crew, especially when they make a revelation that we're in danger right now. But also too, just little moments like, it was one of my favorite moments when Chapel has to chase the alien around the ship. I thought that was great, and it kind of reminded me a little bit. I don't know why, if it was because the actor reminded me of the actor in that TNG episode of those delegates that come aboard the ship. Amy, I can't remember what episode it was, but there was the one that wanted to eat everything.
Liaisons.
Yeah, the liaisons. I just thought that was kind of funny. And it was kind of nice to see someone that just shows up on a weird ship, not go, what is going on? Like, I'm out. Boom. I thought that was great.
Okay, guys, we've talked about our first reactions, but I do want to talk about the cast, because I absolutely love this cast already. And again, it's just because, in part because we got to know Pike. I'm sorry, Anson Mount is playing Pike as the first Star Trek captain. I feel like this is a captain I can go out and have a beer with after work. You had Kirk, who is just, Kirk is Kirk, but you had the seriousness of Picard. You had Cisco, who was cool but always had something heavy going on. Archer was, kind of, more of a regulations kind of guy. Janeway, You know, they're more focused on trying to get home. Understandable. Ansem Out just is that as Christopher Pike, he's just that captain. You want, this is the guy you want to be a cap. You want to be your captain. I think Ethan Peck, who I thought did a great job with Spock in Discovery, is just carrying it on here. And there was a lot of little moments with him, especially when they were on Vulcan and like when she proposes and they're kissing and they're like, we're going to have to ask you to leave. I mean, that was just a great little moment. I mean, that's like, oh yeah, they're on Vulcan. There's not even a question there. But I mean, it's just the crew is fun. I love the play between Pike and Una as well. I think they work because there's that respect there, but they work off so well together. And I'm just in on this cast and can't wait to find out more about our new additions as well as we go along, because I do believe we are actually going to get that in this show, Kevin.
Definitely. Christina Chong as Laan Noonien Singh, she fascinates me, and I'm curious to see where her character goes. And it was great to see Christine Chappell, played by Jed Bush, just kind of jump in there and take care of things. But and I also want to see, because I saw an interview with the cast and how they're kind of discussing their characters. I'm really curious about Lieutenant Erica Ortegas, played by Melissa Navia, if I'm pronouncing her last name right, because apparently the actress let you know that she's a really good pilot, and I really want to see that come into play. But I'm excited because I feel like we're going to get these moments with these characters. And I can just say I just love the look of the show so far. I love the bridge. Mm-hmm. I love everything. And I'm really excited to see where that's going to go. And that classic music too. Oh, love it. Love it.
Yeah. Can I jump in on that music part? That intro, so beautiful. I mean, I love Jeff Russo, but how it weaved the original with the old theme with this new theme, and it would go in and then it would fade out. And then you're like, well, what is the theme? And then you'd get it back to the original. And it was like coming back wave after wave of this nostalgia of what we love Star Trek. I thought, yeah, the music was wonderful.
Well, Amy, I want you to continue. What are your thoughts on the cast? And I got to do a quick shout out here real quick before we talk getting further. Of course, our crew member Haley Stoddard is on the med in med bay, but if we don't mention Captain Shiny Pants for her at least one time.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry about that. Haley, I got you covered. Okay, the last scene, you guys, with him sitting with his leg crossed, arms on the chair, hit it, his hair, his physique, everything. Okay, Haley, that was for you. No, but I noticed, and again, I'm going to draw on my 09 reference because I know that better than OS, but I do know that 09 is based off of the original, so just bear with me. But there were so many shots like that one I just described where I'm like, that is 09, where he's looking and they're coming on the shuttlecraft and approaching the Enterprise. Like, to me, that was classic 09. And sharing the bottle of Sarian brandy, that was 09. I just saw all these references and I'm like, they're going back, they're drawing from the original series, i.e. 09 in my mind. But yeah, a great callback. And again, they interweaved the old with the new in that. And I'm coming at it not really remembering much of original series. So if I'm picking up on it, I'm sure all the stuff that I've missed only makes it that much better.
Chrissy, what about you as far as the cast goes? How are you feeling right now?
Oh, it's great. I love that. I love that Mbenga and Uhura, particularly. I love that they've included them. Okay, I love that they've included Chapel. I'm waiting for that scene of the two Majel Barrett characters talking to each other, because that's just going to be funny to me.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, we already know how great Ethan Peck is, and Rebecca Romaine for those two characters. Yeah, can't say enough about Pike either. I love. I know we're going to find out. I assume we're going to find out more next week. I'm not one of those people who was lucky enough to see the first 2 episodes, but about Horek, the engineer.
Yes.
But the idea that we actually have a blind man playing a blind man. I mean, and that he's the engineer. This is like going back to when they were talking about Geordi being the blind man who's piloting the ship, and it's just the representation is wonderful. The poetry of it is wonderful. I can't wait for more. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Kevin, Chief Security Officer. You know we're going to get lots of trivia and Easter eggs from Strange New Worlds.
I got some for you.
Yeah. What you got for me?
All right. The film Pike's watching is The Day the Earth Stood Still. The part is the end where Klaatu gives those gathered a warning about taking violence out into space. This foreshadows this episode's storyline. A shuttle is identified in dialogue as Stamets, likely named in honor of Paul Stamets, a Discovery engineer who led the development of the Spore Drive and who is officially declared dead by this point in time. This is the pilot episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds and is dedicated to the late April Nusafora, who had worked on several Star Trek projects. Her last was as producer on Star Trek Discovery. The missing Starfleet vessel is called the USS Archer, likely named after Captain Jonathan Archer, captain of the NX-01 Enterprise in the series Star Trek Enterprise. There's also a USS Archer in the fleet that the Enterprise E attempted to rendezvous with in Star Trek Nemesis. Pike is first seen in the wilderness home cooking eggs, just like Kirk was first seen in Star Trek Generations 1994. And I did get that little flashback there. That reminds me of Generations. So, yeah.
I just want to say, if Pike ever needs somebody to watch that cabin while he's out on a mission, I'm down. I'm down.
All right.
Guys, one other fun little thing I want to throw out, and I don't know if you guys caught this on social media last week or not. It was a funny little thing. Rebecca Romaine is married to Jerry O'Connell. Well, Jerry O'Connell's dad went down into a New York subway and stood next to a big poster saying, "That's my daughter-in-law. She's the first officer on the Enterprise." And he apparently stayed there most of the day. And then at the end of the day, Jerry O'Connell goes, "Well, I'm the first officer on a Starfleet ship too."
That was beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, I just saw that. It was a little fun, and it's great. It's all in the family when it comes to Rebecca Romaine and number ones. But
did
Chrissy,
anybody see? Did anybody see Anson Mount's tweet with the baby?
I did see that tweet.
Oh, it was so sweet. Just he's got I think 4-month-old maybe.
Yeah, born very recently.
Yeah, and he's got him in a little, yellow command uniform, and it's just adorable.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, guys, we do have some away missions for Strange New Worlds to talk about, so I'm activating up that transport. Now, we talked a lot about this as we were giving our initial thoughts on the episode and going through some things, but it is here, Strange New Worlds. Like I have said a couple of times, I think it's the most anticipated show in the Paramount Plus era of Trek, and maybe since Next Generation. I truly feel that way. So I have a couple of points and a couple of questions to you. One of the points I want to make real quick, and I think Chrissy, I want to give you a chance to follow up on this because you brought it up too. One of the things I really liked about this episode that I think is something that I've maybe even had a little bit of a problem with in Discovery. You talk about the politicalness in Star Trek. And I think there are times where Discovery is beating it over your head with a hammer. And how they handled it in this episode of Strange New Worlds, in my opinion, and that is one of the greatest captain speeches in the history of Star Trek. It was a phenomenal scene by Anson Mount, and I absolutely loved it. And I know Star Trek has always had political undertones, but this is how I want I want to work it into I want it to work into the storyline and what's happening, not be brow-based. And I can say that there's other shows I like. Doctor Who is an example that seems to have had a similar problem in its own writing the last few years. But I loved this and how they handled this, Chrissy.
It's interesting that you should say that this one isn't beating it over the head, considering that we literally saw the gallows that was put up a little over a year ago in the Capitol, and it's a very obvious as opposed to subtle. But I do see where you're going with it, though, that it's more integral to the story than we've seen in other places. I find it wonderfully ironic that telling a story about modern day politics and modern day society is, of course, what Roddenberry wanted to do in the first place, famously. But it has taken, 57 years to get to being able to do the stories that he got rejected on The Lieutenant, which is what caused him to do this in the first place. So to have this get picked up in the show that's about Pike, it's from the original pilot, and have that kind of political commentary in it is just beautiful to me. There is a full circleness to that I don't think I don't know that if I could have thought of doing it that perfectly if I had sat down to try to figure it out. And I love it. And yeah, I mean, bring it on. And I have stayed off of social media for the most part this weekend because I don't want to see people complaining about seeing those kind of pictures and saying this is the beginning of the Second American Civil War. Because from an historical viewpoint, oh yeah, this looks like it's going to be the beginning of the Second American Civil War. It's just going to be, I don't know. At this point, I'm feeling like it's going to be women versus men who want to prevent us from using our bodies, but that's a whole other issue. So, yeah.
Kevin, I want to tie this into the fact that they opened up with The Day the Earth Stood Still, because you and I are big movie buffs, and I mean that's a pretty famous scene, and to have that come full circle in this episode too was a lot of fun.
I remember the Keanu version. He's like, "You're gonna want to let me go right now." But yeah, definitely. It was definitely foreshadowing what was going on. But I it's easy to read into all that if you want to and make an agenda about it. But I was more fascinated with how it led to the eugenics wars, and of course, World War III, and the last time in Trek history that happened, and a lot of people learned from that, and that shaped the future going forward.
To that point, Kyle, I was as you were saying that, it seems like they are doing it in what you were saying, Chrissy, like what Gene wanted to do. What we're getting and what we got is as one topic boiled down to its essentials. I think what we got. You will sort of what we saw in Picard. There's going to be destruction. You're going to destroy and die, or you're going to work together and live. Like, that's where it's going to be. Here's the road that you're on. Mm-hmm. And so to remove the complexities of why they're coming at each other and just boil it down, it's an easier pill to swallow because we know the complexities are deep and are on both sides, and it's going to be hard. But we get that hope of, well, if you got to do the hard work, otherwise we're going to end up dead. We're going to destroy our planet. Whatever cosmic thing you want to have happen, we're on the path to it unless we can find a way to work together. So I get both of what you're saying. It is bonk bonk on the head, to steal a phrase.
Yeah.
But it's boiled down to something that I can digest and understand.
It's not being thrown in your face in a way that's like just shock value. It's making you think, and that's what I again I come back to one of the things I love about Star Trek is when it makes you think. And again, Amy, all three. Anson Mount's performance in delivering this speech is what makes it work. Anson Mount delivers a speech, and Kevin, I'm going to ask you. It felt significant to establish the type of character Pike is as well. And I really think that was another big key piece of this, is it really establishes, especially with him telling them to reveal the Enterprise. Pike's not afraid to break the rules if it's going to get the outcome that's needed. And I like that with Pike, Kevin.
Yeah, he's no nonsense. And I think that was important. And he was confident in his decision that it was going to work, and it was a risk, but a risk that paid off, and a very impactful way to make an impression and to be able to show these two factions that are, or this world that's on the brink of repeating his past. I think was an important way to do it. And, we got that from Pike in Discovery, which is why fans wanted to see his adventure continue. And this is the reason why we got this series, because of the, the way that he carries that character. And I think it was important for the crew to see that as well, and to know what they're in for. And I'm excited to see them work together.
Too, another thing, Chrissy, that I liked too was the speech he gives right at the end of the episode when he's talking about the Force and how the Force, even in space, it can grow bigger. Mm-hmm. And again, that was the other thing that sometimes I don't feel with Picard, and I don't feel with Discovery, is that sense of hope. And I think that was something that was very big for me in this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I want to ask you guys too is, now that we have this, we're in this first episode. Are you already 100? Do you feel like you're already 100% in, or is there any trepidations, or are you like, I need a couple more episodes to get a full feel for this? Again, we've Star Trek's been a little weird the last few years with the fan base. I've felt for a while personally, this is the show that could bring everybody kind of back together on this, kind of like, Kevin, we've talked about what Mandalorian did for a lot of Star Wars fans.
Yeah, definitely. I think that going to a formula that feels a little more chicken soup, home, comfort food, that type of thing, not trying to overthink that we need to say certain messages all the time, or that we need to change the whole palette to try to get new viewers. I think that we need to, and it's returning to a certain time where exploration within the Federation is a thing, and this is their directive, and I think seeing that being brought to the center of the story is important, and I'm hoping that that this is the show that will say, hey, if you didn't like Discovery, give this one a chance, and just like anything else, you don't have to like all of Star Trek. You don't have to like all of one particular fandom. Just give it a shot, and if it's for you, ride along with it. If it's not, wait for the next one, because we're lucky that now that we have the next one, and that's what I like about it. So yeah.
Amy, what about you? Are you feeling like you're in already? I know we had a little conversation because of the TOS connections, and you weren't sure how to feel about that. But I got to, it's been a long time since I've watched TOS, but it just pulled me right in, and I feel like I'm on for this is the easiest ride for Star Trek. I feel like I can hop on blindly and go, yep, I'm in. Take me on this journey.
It's definitely been interesting, and to compare, the heaviness and the depth and the gravitas and the world ending, how are we going to save the galaxy, much less beyond the galaxy, as we did last season, to get to these smaller bite-sized stories. And I've used bite-sized twice. I think that's what I'm missing, is watch an episode, beginning, middle, end. Wonderful story, great commentary, good character development. Like, it's checking all the boxes. And like what you were saying, Kevin, with the lightness of the bridge. I mean, just that in and of itself is lovely. I love that Star Trek is having the courage to do this and to still produce Discovery, even though we have a lot of people who complain about it. or with Picard. Like the vision that they have, and that we get to have all different type of ways to tell stories, is remarkable. And from the last season of Discovery and now the last episode of Picard, I will trust the writers. The last two series, I've, doubted, but they have won me over. There's something about Discovery, Picard, and now this. I'm trusting the writers, and I will go along with them wherever they want to take me.
Chrissy, what about you? Where are you? Where are you feeling after now? Are you in? Are you completely 100% sold for Strange New Worlds?
Oh, absolutely. Maybe I was sold before it happened. I don't know. I think a lot of us were, but I'm also not. I'm not one to step into the new Trek and be like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this. I kind of just let it wash over me, and then I'll think about it later in terms of whether or not it's meeting expectations and things like that. I like to just take it in and enjoy it, and it's Trek and it's wonderful, and maybe some series I don't go back and rewatch as much as others, but it's still. We have 5 shows going on right now, for God's sake, for the great bird's sake. Okay. I mean, come on. This is wonderful. I don't know why people are complaining.
Guys, one last thing I want to hit up, and we've all kind of hit on it here: episodic television. This feels like a return to episodic television that nobody's writing anymore. It doesn't feel like anybody's really writing episodic television. And I think, honestly, it's the best thing that could happen for us right now, is a little bit of return to that. I think we've gotten too lost in, we have to have this huge overarching storyline. And I think that's part of the fun, and also part of, sometimes it is, for us, fandom is escapism. And when you're not having to deal with the heaviness of this, overarching storyline, it takes a weight off and lets us enjoy things more. And Kevin, I'm going to actually bring a point up that you had in another one of our shows on True Believers. Marvel, we're so used to everything tying in together, and the weight they put on themselves for tying everything in together. I watched this episode of Strange New World. There was no weight watching this show, Kevin. And so I understand some of the points you have when we have like a show that does carry over and it doesn't meet expectations.
I felt like watching Discovery and a little bit of Picard, that I was carrying the weight of the One Ring around my neck, because it was hard. It was depressing. Amy, that's a Lord of the Rings joke, by the way, in case you didn't get that.
Missed it.
I saw the look like, what's he talking about again?
It's usually my look.
And I didn't feel that watching this first episode. I just felt like, it's adventure time again, and it's new alien contact, which is always fun because it can be sticky, it can be weird, it can be fun, and that's what feels like Star Trek to me. It's nice to have the moments in Picard that are nostalgic, but I was missing the overall feeling I get when I go back and throw on a Blu-ray disc of TNG or DVD of the other series, and that I always loved in DS9 and Voyager and stuff like that. So it's nice to kind of look forward to that again, and it makes me more excited for the new episodes.
Chrissy, is the episodic television a selling point for you as well with this show?
Yes. I wasn't really feeling like it was missing, I guess. I'm a minority in that one, but I like that, and I want to see this one get onto actual broadcast television the way they did with the first season of Discovery. I think that will be a very good thing, whether it's, they're going to throw it on CBS over the summer next year or something like they did, or, I'm trying to think what other channels they own, but off the top of my head, I can't think of it. But
it changes on a daily basis, so does it?
This is true. But yeah, this would be a way to reintroduce Trek to people who are not getting Paramount Plus specifically for it the way we are.
Yeah.
people need to be able to discover Trek, and this is a good one to do that with.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I do think when this is done, it should get some kind of television run. Amy, how are you feeling? Are you happy to see episodic television back?
Oh, yes. And I just got to say, when you were introducing and saying no one does this, okay, just on the Paramount Network itself, we have NCIS and all of those incarnations that do episodic TV brilliantly. You get a little case, they solve it, we get character development, perfect. And the new FBI shows and all of their incarnations that I just found, absolutely loving it. Blue Bloods, same thing. Got a cop solving the case, done. Episodic characters go through. I could go on and on. Castle, these shows, and NCIS has 29 seasons or something ridiculous. I know it's more than 23. This is a formula that has been working time and time and time again, and now we're just getting it. Okay, I do have a bone to pick about that because we should have been having this all along. If Strange New Worlds keeps this formula, they themselves could have 23 seasons. I'm telling you, people eat it up. All those ERs, Law and Order, all those types of shows, episodic character development.
And it's a good point, Amy. But even like the shows like an NCIS and stuff, if you've noticed over the last few years, there's more connective tissue going on.
Not between the stories. No, there isn't.
But they are connected.
They may have like a trilogy or you know a 2 episode for a season, but no, it's you solve the case, you solve the murder, it's episodic, but the characters arcs go through. Chrissy,
I was going to say that's good. Yeah,
it allows people to come into a season and not have to go back and watch everything over again. You know, it's a good way to introduce new people. You're like not lost with what's going on. You can just go, oh, they're solving this crime. They're doing this, you know, and then if you want to learn more, you can go back. If you don't, you can just continue.
Well, guys, I know we're running long. I do want to hit at least one topic in the Ready Room because I do want to talk about Will Wheaton addressing his cameo on Picard because it was a great and touching moment. Him talking about how he never thought he was going to get the chance to play Wesley Crusher again when he appreciated Wesley Crusher. And he talks about how when he was playing him, he didn't appreciate him, and it took him a very long time to appreciate Wesley Crusher. And so I wanted to bring that up because obviously Will has become a great spokesman for Star Trek. You see his love. And I think if even 10 years ago, Will Wheaton maybe says no to playing Wesley Crusher on Picard. And it just shows the growth he has had. And he is such a great ambassador for fandom. It was heart touching to see, guys. I don't know if all of you have watched the Ready Room. Amy, I don't think you've had to. Kevin, I know you watched the Ready Room though. How did you, with that whole segment and talking about how it came to be, and Will saying, I've had to keep the secrets since August and it killed me.
Yeah, and it was nice too because when he was interviewed, he officially apologized to Amy Nelson as well for keeping the secret. So that was really, really nice of him, and he was, was very forthcoming about that. So
yes, I better watch it.
I just liked his the way that he started that segment, and you can tell how much it meant to him, and that he felt like he was with family right away, and some of the behind the scenes pictures and working with Issa. It was really, 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 really touching, and it was a long time coming for him. And I know you can go on YouTube and you can watch the whole, of course, episode of the Radio Room, but they also break it up into segments on YouTube under the Paramount Plus YouTube channel. So if you just want to watch that segment, you can as well, the individual ones. And I highly recommend that you guys do if, that are watching this on YouTube or listening to the audio podcast. But I was just so excited for him because I think that, his character, when it came to fans, was the butt of a lot of jokes. But I think those people have grown up and seen a different side of things, and seeing him mature as well and become this Star Trek ambassador. And I think that it's important that as great as he is to watch him interview these wonderful guests on these after show interviews. It's nice to know that they were like, let's not forget about him. Let's bring him back into the fold as well.
Chrissy, one of the things I thought was fun too was they actually talked about getting into a war over Wesley Crusher in the writers' room. And
I actually haven't seen the Ready Room episodes, but I did read the article that he put up on his blog, which I think covers a lot of the same. Sounds like, but that sounds funny. What did he say?
Well, they had Akiva Goldsmith as part of this segment. He's talking about, when we decided we were going to use Wesley here, all of a sudden the writers were no, we want him for season 3. We have plans for him for season 3, and it was like it was literally a war between the writing staffs on Picard of who was going to get to use Wesley Crusher. So,
yeah,
why can't he be in both?
Well, that's what he was saying. So, but guys, this has been a lot of fun covering both this great and phenomenal finale of Picard season 2 and enjoying and just having so much fun with this premiere of the latest addition to the Star Trek family in Strange New Worlds. And I want to do this live show for those of you who are watching, who may have tuned in live while we were doing this, or will be watching later when the links go up, to revisit this on YouTube or Facebook or wherever we post this up to, or you listen to the audio podcast, which will be hitting in a few days on both the Fandom Podcast Network and the BQN Network. Guys, it's been a blast. Amy and Kevin, as always. Chrissy, thank you so much. I hope you've had fun on our version of the Lower Decks.
Definitely. This is a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me.
And hopefully you'll want to return, and we haven't scared you off too much. We won't tell you how we use things in the replicator, though. That gets a little ugly. But again, you can find the Fandom Podcast Network on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com, or come here to visit the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a like, share us, subscribe. That way you're notified when we do these great live things. Miss Nelson, tell the people where they can find the BQN Network.
Well, you can find us on Twitter at BQN Podcasts. We are on Facebook, and you can find us there at the BQN Collective. That's our listeners group. I host a couple shows over there, Galaxy Class, which is about Next Generation, and All Good Things, which is about the classic Trek more, but we're just opening things up, and we have a lot of fun series that we cover that all of Star Trek has had at least one episode, so we get to talk about it all. You can find me on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, and of course in our listeners group for Union.
And of course, some of those shows are going to be showing up on the Fandom Podcast Network feed here shortly as well. Chrissy, where can people find you on social media and other podcast broadcasts?
Sure. Well, over on BQN, of course, I am one of the hosts of Infinite Diversity, and that's one where we're talking about all the new Trek, and we have an infinite diversity of opinions on how things fall out. Also over there, I co-host History with the Zalagis, and that's a twice weekly short history podcast I do with my fellow historian partner, Jason. And I am on Twitter at the Goddess Livia. That's TheGoddessLivia, as you can see on the screen too, if you're watching. And I tweet there about Star Trek history and leftist politics, if you hadn't guessed my opinion on such things.
Mr. Reitzel, where can people find you on social media?
Well, first of all, you can now find me on the BQN Collective Facebook group because I just joined.
All right.
All right. Good.
Of course, you can find me on the Union Federation Facebook group, and you can find me, of course, on the regular, Facebook profile as well. But find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix.
And of course, I'm Kyle, and you can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom. Again, very excited about what's coming with our relationship with the BQN and what's going to come of that. I think a lot of fun things are ahead, so stay tuned on both networks. Until next time, when we will be looking at the Orb of Prophecy, episode 2 of Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet. Episodic television. I missed you. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to my wonderful crew, and we will see you soon. But for now, hailing frequencies are closed.